Hi, good afternoon. My name is Alyssa. I've been tutoring the SATs for about 4 years now, and I was the valedictorian of my senior class, a National Merit Scholar, and scored in the 99th percentile on both reading and writing when I took the tests myself in application to college. I'm looking very much forward to coming to Korea. Let's start with sentence completions. So sentence completion is a sentence that's missing a word. You have to figure out what is the best choice to go in the blank. Now, our strategy with sentence completions is to read the sentence ourselves and then figure out, without looking at the answer choices, what is the best word that we would stick in the blank. Because what happens is, if you look at the answer choices first, frequently you'll be confused by some of the connotations or suggestions that they're making, and you'll think, oh, well, maybe that might work. I'm not totally sure. Whereas, if you go with what you think should be stuck in the blank, you will have an exact idea of what it is you're looking for. Sort of like when you go to the grocery store and you either go with a list or you don't. If you go with a list, eggs, milk, bread, cheese, done. If you don't go with a list, should I buy the peas? Should I buy the beans? Should I buy the apples? I don't know. Much easier. So we approach the SATs like going to the grocery store with a shopping list. Let's read the sentence. After David left him waiting for the third consecutive time, Kirk realized that the same behavior he had initially valued as spontaneous and carefree was, in fact, simply blank. Okay. So what do we think this sentence means? David did something that over time, that started out as spontaneous and carefree, over time became something else. Okay? What is the something else that it could become after it's happened multiple times? My instinct would be thoughtless, right? Because it's something that after you've done it a couple times becomes annoying. So the first time wasn't a big deal, second time, but by the third time I've started to become annoyed. So now I'm starting to feel that David is kind of a thoughtless guy. Now that we have what we think should go in the blank, let's look at the answer choices. Okay. Capricious, incontrovertible, extraneous, captivating, inscrutable. So the problem here is, well, there are two problems. The first problem is none of these words exactly means thoughtless. And that's going to happen sometimes. And that's okay. The thing we want to do is pick the word that is closest to our meaning of thought, to our sense of what should go in the blank. Stick with your instinct, because it's almost always right. You will almost always put a word in that fits, that works. What you want to do is figure out the relationship that's the closest to this guy. The second part is these words are hard. So as we go through, I'm going to teach you some methods, some strategies to help you break down words that are unfamiliar, to go through prefixes, suffixes, pick out root words, and get a sense for even those words that you don't know, what they probably mean or what they could mean. So let's go through here and assume that we know what the words mean. Inscrutable, something that you can't decipher. You can't figure out what it says. Is that the same as thoughtless? No. Done. Captivating, captive, pulled in. Definitely not the same as thoughtless. Extraneous, existing extra, outside. Nope. Incontrovertible, something that you can't argue with. Is that the same as thoughtless? Definitely not. Which leaves us with capricious, whimsical. I think this would be a good idea. That is much more similar to thoughtless than any of the other answer choices that we looked at. Thus, capricious is the answer. Done. All right, let's try a writing question. Improving the sentence. So these questions, in these questions, they're going to give you a sentence. The underlined portion is going to be the part that is in question. Is it right or not? The best strategy for these is to read them out loud. Now, I know on the test you can't actually read it out loud. What you want to do is get in the habit of hearing how it sounds, so when you get to the test, read it out loud in your head, because that's how you're going to catch your mistakes. About 35% of the world's orange juice is produced by Florida, compared with Brazil, the world's largest orange producer, which has nearly 50%. Now, when I read it, you probably heard, you saw me make a face, and you probably heard that I sort of trailed off. I wasn't totally sure what was going on in the sentence. Why? Because it isn't laid out in such a way that it makes sense to our brains. Our brains are always looking for patterns. Here we see, where's my chalk? About 35% of the world's orange juice. And we see that this other thing that we're comparing it to is Brazil. To me, my brain doesn't think that 35% of the world's orange juice and Brazil are the same thing. That's why I stumbled. That's why you'll probably stumble when you read out loud. That's hence the importance of reading it out loud. So when I read this, what comes to mind for me is this a faulty comparison? What have we learned about faulty comparisons? Comparing two things, but they're not apples to apples. What do I mean by that? If you're talking about the paintings of Renoir and Matisse. So Renoir, we're talking about the things he painted. Matisse, we're talking about the guy. So maybe he liked to go for long walks on the beach. That has nothing to do with what he painted. So we want to compare the paintings of Renoir and the paintings of Matisse. Make sense? Here, we want to do the same thing. So I see that we're comparing 35% of the world's orange juice and Brazil. Obviously, this is the problem. So what are we going to look for? Something that compares 35% of the world's orange juice and 50% of the world's oranges. Let's see what the answer choices are. Okay, so we can cross out A right away, because A is always the same option that was in the sentence. And when we read it out loud, we decided it was no good. So, done. Compared with Brazil. Here, we're comparing it to the same thing as we were here. That was the problem. Done. Nearly 50%. Let's come back to this one. The production of Brazil. So here, we're still comparing 35% to the production of Brazil. It's still clumsy. C and E are the two options that compare 35% to 50%, which is the thing I'm looking for. So let's see what the difference is between C and E. Nearly 50% that are produced by Brazil as the world's largest orange producer. To me, I feel like it's a run-on sentence, where once we get to as the world's largest orange producer, I'm like, how do I organize this? Do I need a comma? What's going on here? If I read E, nearly 50% produced by Brazil, the world's largest orange producer. Okay, that gave me the comma I was looking for. Actually, C and E are almost the same answer. We just have a comma here, and here we don't. So that makes this a run-on, this not. No? Yes. Done.